everybody. It is myself, Mags, and Jillaine today. I'm actually really here, unlike Wednesday when I was just kind of on my phone. Not really here. So we have a lot of people already chatting in the chat. So we have Jude, Carol, we have Chris, we have Tommy, we have Ann B. She got here early so she wouldn't forget. That's all I see. Anybody else here that wants to say hello? But thank you for joining us today. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm a little tired this morning. I know Mags is also tired. I don't know about you, Jillaine. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm good. I have a good night's
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's actually, Jillaine is more pumped and excited and energetic than we are. So Sarah and I just may be quiet, let Jillaine talk the whole time.
We also have Ross and Natalie here too.
Oh my God, how exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Ross. Chris Whitten was singing Hey Jude to Jude.
Now,
and then we were singing it.
Who is Jude 1955? I don't recognize that. Do we know who that is?
I don't remember.
Maybe Jude will explain. That would be nice. Oh, hi, Mindy.
And the other Chris Farrell, I can never say his last
Oh, maybe that's who Hey Jude is. Oh no, Hey Boss Chris, he says.
And
good
Chris
morning.
Chris was like, Mags, quiet?
Oh, Chris, you're just jealous that I have the gift of the gab.
And then we have another Chris, a Christopher Childs, who just dropped in. Hello.
One of
Chris and Chris.
Chris, three.
Jillaine, change
Chris
your
Q.
name to Chris, and this can be the Chris show.
Chris, and Chris. Kind of like Ed, and Eddie, but Chris, and Chris.
Or Daryl, and my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Christopher is one of our active volunteers on the Puritan Great Migration Project.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one of our things we're going to be talking about today. We have Jillaine here talking about the PGM project. But, we'll do that later on in the stream. Natalie says no more Chris's can enter. That's it. We're at our quota. That's it. Okay, I guess we have everybody here who's going to join, at least for now. I guess we can start off with, because April, I don't know if, did anybody do any good April Fool's jokes on,
We talked about it on Wednesday night.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, there was the one, but besides
Murphy did an extraordinarily good one. And I know Chris, and I was so surprised. I was like, Chris, I didn't know you had a sense of humor. I thought it was Chris Whitten. I'm just kidding, Chris.
Yeah, I guess April Fool's was Wednesday, so maybe I was not fully there on Wednesday, so.
Yeah. That was a good talk, though, about adoption.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to have Rob Worthen and Emma Macbeth and Michelle Patient from New Zealand. She's a misplaced Aussie, but she was there. I think she's going to be coming in a lot on Wednesday nights.
That's good. Okay, then. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Wednesdays, once the first Wednesday of the month, we do a, well, I guess for us, it's a nighttime live stream, but for people on the other side of the world, it's a better time for them to come and join. So we do that once a month, 8 p.m. Eastern time, whatever that is for you.
Christopher Child says he's been up since 5 working on a potential PGM adjunct. What does that mean, Jillaine?
Do you want to know now?
Yeah.
So we created the adjunct tag or template because there are people who don't normally fall into who don't formally fall under the scope of the project, but are confused with someone who does, or maybe they're believed to be somebody that they aren't.
Gotcha.
And so we keep an eye on and project protect those profiles that might impinge on the accuracy of PGM related.
Good. That's interesting. Thank you for answering that. You want me to talk about April Fool's Day?
Yeah, I had brought up April Fool's because we were going to talk about the question of the week. And then the profile of the week, which has kind of ties in a little bit to
Okay, April. So I'll go to the question of the week. So there weren't a lot of answers, but there's a couple of really good answers. I could actually talk about all of them. But the question of the week is, do you have any jokesters in your family tree? April Fool's Day is April 1st. Do you have any jokesters or pranksters in your family tree? Anyone who just loved to tell jokes? Tell us about them with an answer below, or use the question image for a post on social media with your friends and such. Roz, you're here and you said that your dad can make anyone smile, whereas my dad, he had a sneaky smile. He has a sneaky smile. He's 90. He is, if we were talking around the table, he's a very quiet guy. Believe it or not, my father is a very quiet man. But when he goes to speak or say something funny, he gets this funny little wry grin. And we all say it's his sneaky smile because he's getting ready to blast the room with the funniest comment of the night. So I get that. Joker, wait till they get a load of me. Actually, my dad's been known to tell some jokes. This is from Chris Ferriello. My mom's had her moments too, but no one's done really mean jokes. But I have plenty. It's hard to pick one. Dean Anderson says that would be a very difficult question to answer to provide, because the list of jokesters and pranksters in his family or her family is extremely long. And I say her family because I have somebody in my family that has that first name. Alexis Nelson, I liked yours because of the two fabulous comics that she puts up. And they're really old, and they don't really, go back to our, we're like, everybody burns the midnight oil, but I guess back then it was a big deal. Yes, there have been lots of jokesters. My most vivid memory of my maternal grandfather is of him popping corn. He would leave the lid off the pan, and the corn would be flying everywhere. I'd be eating it off the floor, and my grandmother would be having a fit. My paternal grandfather was also known to be quite a jokester. It seems that all of his family was also. My father's baby book is filled with silly things. And instead of the sweet cards we send now, when a new baby arrives, these two cards sent to my grandfather in 1918 from his family when my father was born. Isn't that just sweet that Alexis still has those? And there's like handwriting on one of them. That is just so sweet.
So Carol just said that her maternal grandfather was born on April 1st.
Yeah.
Her family was great at jokes, and they would say her grandfather was the true April Fool's joke.
Oh, that's funny.
My niece was born on April 1st, and I was only 10, and my sister called. She didn't live where we did in the same town. She called. I answered the phone, and she's like, Jillaine, put mom on the phone. I just had a baby. And I'm like, oh, April Fool's to you too. Because, I was a 10-year-old brat.
That's funny. Scott Fulkerson had a really good story about his Uncle Jimmy. That when his Uncle Jimmy, is that right? That it's Uncle, yeah, he was a big man. He told jokes all the time. He'd pull coins out of their ears or flop his arms around like he had no bones and stuff like that. But the most interesting part of his, and he looked a bit like Jackie Gleason's relative. But one of the most interesting parts is this. One request he had to the funeral director was that during the funeral, he would like to sit up one last time and smoke his last cigarette. The image of him somehow putting the funeral director up to doing that kept us smiling throughout the service, and even a giggle or two might have slipped out the more we thought about it. Sadly, he never did spring up during the service. It might have caused a few heart attacks and definitely would have had me rolling in the aisle. I miss him, and I'll always remember him that way. Do you remember him sitting up in the coffin or that imaginary stuff? I don't know. That's pretty cool. So that's really about the bulk of those. So I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Here we are back. Pretty good answers, though.
Yeah, kind of light, fun question of the week revolving around April 1st, April Fool's Day, which I don't know. Does that happen in, I don't know if we talked about this on Wednesday, but I don't know if more countries, like the United States and Canada or England, or I don't know who else, what other countries do April Fools? So, I don't know. But, okay, so into that, we're going to talk about our profile of the week, who was responsible for one of the greatest hoaxes, George Hull. I don't know who's familiar with this. That picture is not actually of him. That's a picture of his hoax that he did. I don't know it's the Cardiff Giant. So when I was reading about him, so his parents were religious, but he didn't follow his parents' beliefs. He didn't think any of that. So basically what he did to get back at, he basically made this giant thing out of clay and stone to kind of surprise and to get back at one of the pastors or ministers. What was it? That was in his town, saying like, "Oh yeah, we've found giants before in this area." So he went through to try. He built, I think, 11-foot giant, and he dug it up and he put it into his land, and he charged people $5 per person to come see it, and he had thousands of people come and seeing this fake giant. and yeah.
When was this, Sarah? I can't see.
So he was the actual hoax itself. He was born in 1824. Let's see. Where's the date? I don't see a date here.
So it's mid 1800s.
Yeah. So we don't have an actual picture of, at least that I found, of George Hull himself, but we do have a description of him. George was over 6 feet tall, with black hair, black mustache, and a beard, dressed in black from his shoes to his plug hat. He's been described as looking part of a villain. So, yeah, and he's connected to the tree. It was a pretty interesting story. He wanted to make the giant bigger. He wanted to do, I think, 16 feet, but he couldn't find a piece of stone that was big enough, so he settled for 11 feet. So, yeah, and crowd, like I said, nearly 5,000 people a day visited the giant. This fake giant that he dug up put in his yard, and be like, look, giant in my yard.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. And then it took some time before people realized it was nothing more than a rock. But now it's in a museum. It's been on exhibit since the 1940s. And yeah, that's pretty. Well, it wasn't actually done on April Fool's itself. It was still a prank that he did, and that was pretty interesting. You guys should read the full story. Pretty interesting there. So I love learning about these people. Yeah, my cat wants attention.
Yeah, my cat may interrupt us as well. We'll see, and he's very talkative. But so far he hasn't figured out where I am.
Hey, Maggie, sitting with your cat and your tea.
Okay, so now let's look at the photos of the week. I think one of the best things about these live streams. So it was springtime theme. So I hope we have lots of photos with flowers like this one. That's nice.
Oh,
it's like she's in a wedding dress.
Yeah.
And she's in her garden. Edna's garden.
Are those flowers from her garden on her corsage?
That's a good question. Can we tell? I can't really tell.
I can't tell what the corsage is. Cool.
There's another. They have a background like of flowers, so probably taken during the springtime. Oh, it's a cute one.
Oh, baseball. Spring. Yeah.
Spring
Look at that glove.
Yeah, definitely not what they look like now. Mother-daughter dresses. Oh, they're all matching.
Oh my God, somewhere I've got one of those. My mom made dresses for her 3 daughters that all matched.
My mother would never have done that.
Yeah, I didn't do that either. Look, graduation, because graduation is in spring. That's a cute photo. Springtime fishing.
In the early 1920s?
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Or the 1890s?
Let's see when. So one of the people in the photo was.
Wow. She passed in 1935.
So it had to. It might have. She might have been this one. I think.
Might have been the teens. Isn't that fun?
Looks like they're about to go out and have a good time.
Yeah. Wedding anniversary, maybe?
Maybe. She's in white.
Oh, and B recognized the flowers from an earlier photograph as hollyhocks. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask if anybody knew what those photos were. I mean, those flowers.
We have hollyhocks. I have 2. It's a lot of work keeping them from spreading.
Oh, look at that one. She's skipping. That's a great action. I like that one.
Is there a jump rope in there? I can't quite tell. But
no, I think she's just skipping.
Anybody recognize the bottles on the ground next to the house?
Milk bottles?
Those maybe? Are old milk bottles.
That was just a good guess. And wedding portraits, so probably had their wedding in the spring.
And she's wearing flowers. And in her hair as well.
Yeah. And then that was the last photo there. But let's see if we had any in the post. So here's one we didn't see. Springtime at my grandpa's Lakeview Resort.
Wow. Beautiful.
And this is the graduation photo.
It's kind of fun looking at the photographs from the other feed and then looking here and making all those guesses and then seeing the real answer.
Yeah, that's why I like to do that. I guess, and then see what's. So, some of the people, I guess some of the younger people were born in like the early 1900s. So I guess you're right, like the teens.
Well, somebody died in. Oh, okay, good. Bill Sims posted that one.
Yeah, he's been posting some good photos lately.
My mom's maternal grandparents, Ernest and Helen Wintermute.
Easter photo.
Oh.
Been taken in 1950, probably. Springtime in Florida.
So I'm thinking back on those matching outfits, the mother-daughter outfits or the mother-children outfits. And I'm thinking, was it always associated with Easter? Because as I think about it, I think the outfits my mom made were
Easter,
or for like going to Easter service or something. I don't know.
My university roommate did that to her children, and I swear to goodness she found flowery curtains to make them out of. She's not watching this, so I'm good to say that.
Look, here's one we didn't see. I don't have any photos of family with spring flowers or outdoors in spring, but I do have a photo of family members on their farm helping to birth a calf.
Yeah, I thought that's what was going on in there.
Oh, see, June
Interesting.
is saying that she always had matching Easter outfits. I think there must be some association for some people in some locations between matching outfits
Look at that.
and Easter.
Look at that photo. It's like such a good photo. In the wagon with the dog. That's cute. I think this
my mother would never do matching outfits. She was a psychologist, and she would probably say it hindered our personal growth or something.
This one says something about matching Easter photos too. Dresses. This one with the wagon. Like the skipping.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the date of this one, but it looks like she's enjoying the springtime.
It's like the 20s or 30s.
Probably. And look, this one's a nice one.
Dogwood? I can't tell.
Looks like, yeah, kind of. I can agree with that.
Wedding portrait.
Yeah, they're probably staged the backdrop, but they were married in springtime. So maybe the photo wasn't taken in springtime, but they got married in springtime. Yeah, and that was it for our photos. Wonderful photos. I really like this wagon one a lot.
I do too. I like the dog.
Mm-hmm. We had a wagon, and it's a very, very nice, crisp photo too. I like that. Okay. Well, thank you. Like we always say, thank you for sharing your photos with us for every week. We enjoy looking at them. And yeah, so that was kind of it. So now we can segue into the PGM project, which, Jillaine, do you want to just kind of tell us basically what that is? What is it?
So we use acronyms a lot on WikiTree, and we get a lot of heck for it. So PGM is shorthand that we use for the Puritan Great Migration project. And it is focused on improving the profiles of our ancestors who migrated from predominantly England to New England, to the Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut area between 1621 and 1640. And I say 1621 because we have a separate WikiTree has a separate project that focuses on the Mayflower, which came in 1620. And so what we're really lucky to have a series of books by Robert Charles Anderson and his team, who did an amazing review of the earliest settlers in New England, and to make information about them accurate. And so the Puritan Great Migration project got started to reflect what Anderson and his team found, and to make sure that the profiles on WikiTree aligned with the facts of Anderson and his team. We call it the Puritan Great Migration to distinguish it from other historical era Great Migrations, and people who the profiles include people who may or may not have been Puritan. I know that's one of the confusing things that's come up in the past about this project, because people will say, wait, my ancestor wasn't Puritan. So it refers to an era, a period of time during which people, Puritans and others, emigrated. So, and our overarching goals are to just make sure the profiles are accurate. Anderson and his team published the Great Migration series between, and I'm sure the other volunteers and my co-leader Anne will correct me if I've got this wrong, between 1995 and 2008 or 9, I believe. And since then, so another area of work that we do is we have volunteers who scour like the register out of the New England Historic and Genealogical Society, the American Genealogist, and even NGS Quarterly. These are 3 really great peer-reviewed journals, genealogical journals, because research continues, and there have been new findings since Anderson had published his work. So we try to keep those up to date as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jillaine, for that overview. And then anybody in the chat, if you have questions about the PGM project, please just throw them out so then we can ask Jillaine. Do you have a lot of PGM ancestors yourself, Jillaine? Do you have?
Well, so I got into it because of my husband's ancestry. On his mom's side, she goes back to a whole bunch of early New England folks, not Mayflower, but Winthrop's fleet, which was in 1630 and was a number of ships that came over. It was sort of the first wave of post-Mayflower settlers. So I got involved when I was doing researching his ancestry. But then, I don't know, a few years back, I discovered this little funny branch. I'm almost like 97% German origin or heritage, but I've got this one little branch that, if my research is accurate, and that's a big if, goes back to colonial New England. And I only discovered that maybe 10 or 15 years after doing genealogy research on my family.
Okay. Yeah, June was saying that she has an ancestor who was on the Winthrop fleet as well.
Yeah.
So Isaac Stearns. Anne B says she's tons of PGM ancestors. I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. I probably have some ancestors that have a little sticker.
Christopher Childs claims he has at least 70. So
wow.
He's got a lot of New England blood in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very German like you, but I do have some English as well. So I haven't really looked into it, to be honest. How about you, Mags? Do you have any?
I do. I have the lords who ended up in Connecticut are my people. They ended up the lords who were in Connecticut ended up having an argument. They were in New Haven. They ended up having an argument and moved to South Carolina and established a church community there in Dorchester. And then my specific lords moved on to Jackson County, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But and they were very religious, that family. Very religious.
They went from New England to the South?
Yep.
That's really rare. That's amazing. I know that there are some isolated instances of that happening, but that's really rare. That's great.
I don't know if there was a family argument or what happened, but they actually moved to actually establish Puritan churches in the South.
Yeah.
Which turned into Baptist, I believe.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Anne says that she has lords in Hartford. Anne B.
Yeah, I was thinking if you've got somebody in early Connecticut, Mags, you're probably related to Anne.
Yeah, I probably am. Hartford. Which town is it that has the big monument?
I think it's Hartford.
Well, then it was Hartford. I'm sorry, I was saying the wrong word. It was Hartford, Anne.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so it seems like a lot of people are saying that they have some PGM ancestors as well. So Jillaine, so you have a lot of goals, small goals within the project, but are you working towards a goal right now within the project to change project, or like just an overall anything you're currently working towards as a project?
I would say it's ongoing, and we've got, there are a lot of members of the Puritan Great Migration project, and there's inside of that membership, we've got a smaller, really active team who take on very specific roles. So for example, Anne B and I, we check the feed daily and we respond to queries that come up, whether it's in GTG or in the comments on a profile. We, as I mentioned, Christopher loves to flesh out the narratives of his ancestry. I mean, this is one of the things, if you've got early colonial New England ancestry, you can be in the project and just working on your own family, and at the same time helping the project achieve its goals of accuracy. Cheryl S. I don't know if I don't see her in here this morning. Cheryl Scordahl. She spends a lot of time working on the bios, on the narratives. As we all do, right? Some of the earliest profiles on WikiTree came from GEDCOMs that were uploaded, and initially we were really focused on deduping, but I think most of that's done. We still periodically get the occasional duplicate, and we handle that, but that's mostly done. There's sometimes just a lot of narrative cleanup that needs to happen, rewriting the bios so they're in original text and not a copy and paste from Anderson or some other website. So we do a lot of that. Other goals are, I was going to say about Cheryl. Cheryl started a sub-project called PGM Beyond, and it's the people who initially came over but then left and went somewhere else, either returned to England or went on to Long Island, or Mags, your folks who, if they were part of an emigrating family and they went to Georgia, they would qualify for PGM Beyond. So it's the people who moved beyond New England. And I guess the one thing I would just say about the different types of activities or goals, I mean, ultimately accuracy is the overarching goal. But, I think Ann and I both really try to encourage volunteers to work on things they really care about or that interest them, and at the same time advance the goals of the project. And so we don't have, I really admire the structure that the England project has. I'm kind of envious of it. We don't have that. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. But what I really do love about what we have is we've got, a core group of very committed volunteers who work on those pieces that they care most about, and serve as a model to a lot of other folks on WikiTree or who are working on the project.
Yeah, I think that just ties in. Oh, sorry, Mags. What were you going to say? I was saying,
I was going to say that it appears that my connection, the Lord connection, has been cut off. There's a guy who did a bunch of research on the Lord family from Jackson County, Georgia, and on back, some of his work might be questionable, but there absolutely is a family lore that we came down from Connecticut. And I never knew anything about the Great Pilgrim Migration Project until I started looking into that. But somebody has disconnected me from that line, which is fine. It means that I need to research that line, which I have not done. I've not researched my lords.
Mm-hmm. And what I was going to say, what Jillaine was mentioning, how, just people working on their own profiles help the project. I think that's in general of WikiTree. You're working on your own profiles, you're helping WikiTree.
Yeah. So when somebody says to you, Jillaine, what's the best thing they could do for the PGM project? You would say,
source your profiles.
Source your profiles.
Source them and flesh them out. And I guess that's the other thing I want to say. And I know different projects do, approach this differently. But one thing I really want to convey is when you come across one of your ancestors' profiles, and you see the Puritan Great Migration as one of the project managers, we consider ourselves co-managers working in partnership with the other managers and with anybody else who's descended from them or related or interested in them. So we really want to encourage people, if you've got data, please add it. I think the piece that we do want people to be careful about is when they want to add relationships to an existing Puritan Great Migration era profile, because chances are we've researched it already. It's described in the disputed origins are described in the narrative, and there's a reason they're not attached to those parents or that spouse. And so in those cases, we do want people to communicate with each other and with us, with the project. But in general, we really we want to work in partnership with people, and I hope that when people see that, they see evidence that that's really what's happening.
Well, and a lot of times, any kind of disputes or problems with that could be taken care of by somebody just actually reading some of the notes on the profiles.
Yeah. Yeah. And related to questions, I wanted to call out Carol. Hi, Carol. Thanks for getting up so early to be on with us today. Carol asked a question in G2G in the thread about this live chat. And it actually was a question that was about a specific ancestor. So when people do have questions about a specific ancestor, we encourage them to ask either as a comment on the profile, or look and see, there might be a G2G already associated with them. Frankly, there's a lot of G2Gs already associated. So look at that. If there is one, take a look and see. And if there isn't one, feel free to start one, tag it with PGM so it gets our attention. And ask why aren't the parents attached? Chances are it's already described, but if it might not be, or I think I know who the parents are and here are the sources that I have. We really encourage that kind of engagement. So I hope if you have a question about an ancestor, please ask it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question about my lords now. Yeah, I think that the PGM project has always been one of those projects where the people who are working the project are very passionate, very helpful, and very precise. And sometimes people think of the PGM project as a project that's been like out there, like butting heads with people. And I've never really seen that. What I've seen is people, well, no, but people are, like you said, they're not reading the notes. They're trying to post something without having a discussion with the rest of the profile managers, which is one of the things that we believe in, is discussing big changes. So collaboration. So yeah, that's a big part of WikiTree.
And the other thing that I really like about the project is our work with other projects. So, for example, sort of continuing on the topic of sort of where we might butt heads with descendants, people love to be descended from royalty or famous people. And, there were a lot of late 19th century genealogies that came out, and some of them were well-intentioned, some of them were downright fraudulent, but claiming ties to royalty. And so we work with both the England Project and the Magna Carta Project to help clarify that. Our project folks, we don't have the capacity to dive into the research on the other side of the pond, as I call it, but Magna Carta and England do. And so we've relied heavily on them to help us make those profiles of the immigrating ancestors, what are also known as gateway ancestors,
yes,
be accurate.
So, okay, they're discussing over on the Facebook side how do you join the PGM project?
Well,
how do you join?
So the first thing we ask you to do is read the project page, and actually, Sarah, can I ask? Well, let's see. I guess I can do it.
I can put it up if you want.
Yeah, read the project page, and if you just Google WikiTree Puritan Great Migration Project, it's like the first thing that comes up, and it describes the goals of the project. It describes some of the different kinds of things that we're working on. So we want people to sort of read it and understand what we're about. Some people want to join just because they're a descendant. We actually have a specific sticker you can put on your profile if you're a descendant of a PGM ancestor. In terms of volunteering, we are looking for folks who are going to proactively help us achieve the goals. And so reading that page, and then there's a link under how to join that goes to a G2G thread. We do ask that folks have a little bit of time on WikiTree, that they're already comfortable using WikiTree. You do need pre-1700 badge access to participate because of the time period that we cover. So we like to see some examples of profiles that you've worked on that demonstrate your familiarity with sourcing, with looking at the facts and things like that. So we just ask you to post that in the G2G thread, we take a look, and assuming everything is great, we assign you the badge and ask you to, join, like identify and share with us, what are you going to be focusing on? And that could be just your particular branch of the tree.
Sarah, go back to the PGM project page for a second. Scroll up to there you go. That box there with all of that fun information. I don't know how many people actually look at it, but if you scroll down, if you look down, you'll see that you can see one of the example profiles for the Puritan Great Migration project. And if you look at those profiles, you'll get a pretty good idea of what the project is expecting in your work for the profile. And number one, we see that there's a great separation of information in the biography. There's information on the immigration, the death. There's more information on the estate. You can really see in questions about the children. Obviously, there's information there for the children. But look at the sources. Look at the sources that they have. And then they also have other stuff. So think about looking when you're checking out a project. You can usually see examples of the type of information that they want to appear on a profile.
So thank you, Mags, for doing that. That's a really good reminder. It does remind me of something that another PGM volunteer shared recently. Ellen Smith, I think a lot of you know Ellen. I wish I was related, but no, she's just another Smith. So one of the things that Ellen shared is that one of the things she really likes about the PGM project is the opportunity to learn a great deal about the craft of genealogical research by studying how folks like Robert Charles Anderson and other folks who get published in, journals like this one, how they do their research, how they cite their sources, how they analyze the evidence, how they think. And so, working on PGM profiles and trying to get them to the level of this quality is also going to help you strengthen your research skills. And those skills can be used on any profile, on any profile anywhere.
Jillaine, I've been wondering about what you have behind you.
What I have.
You have to stop sharing the screen there, Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I accused Jillaine of putting all of this stuff behind her on purpose so that she would look smart or smarter or look good. But the reality is,
she is smart.
Well, this is my collection. This is part of my collection, and I didn't move any furniture. I did rearrange the books so that all my New England related, Puritan Great Migration era books were together more or less, and my Bible, Evidence Explained, and the journals and stuff. But yeah, these are some books and the journals. The journals. Oh my gosh. If you have colonial New England ancestry or even colonial ancestry, join in the New England Historical Genealogical Society is totally worth it. The quality of work, and talk about learning how to research. I think the other one that I really like is the National Genealogical Society. Their articles are really more focused on the process, like how did they solve the problem, right? The register is kind of like the results of the research, and NGS Quarterly includes the results, but it's kind of focused on how they figured out the problem.
Right.
So these are my favorites, and I look forward to receiving them. I do have access to them online, but I like to read the hard copy.
You reminded me of some of my librarian friends, the way you were touching your books so adoringly behind you.
Julie thought you were at the library.
Yes, that's true. So now when you send a note to the Puritan Great Migration Project and you ask a question and Jillaine answers you, just imagine that she's just turned around, lovingly grabbed her book, opened it, probably just drooled in her book. You probably ruined the book while you're doing it. And she's answering your question through the drool.
Chances are I've opened a new window and logged into AmericanAncestors.org and done a search and done it over there. But
But that story that Mags gave just makes it such a better imagination.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. It's romanticizing.
Imagine away.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest mystery or whatever you have solved on WikiTree? Pilgrim Migration or any of them?
So the other project that I'm involved with is the Native Americans Project. And the reason I got involved with that project was because of the Puritan Great Migration Project. There is a long-standing myth that Austin or Augustine Bierce, who is a early New England settler, married an Indian princess.
Of course.
And it was very interesting to do the reading the background. Where did that come from? Here's one of the fun things is about doing research is we're doing genealogy on people, but it's also fun to do genealogy on the research itself. Like, what are the origins of this myth? Where did it first appear? And what do we know about it? And what has happened since? And so that was an example. And so, like, really digging into where did this come from? What did that person base their claim on? And what has been written and published since that either affirms it or debunks it? And so Augustine Bierce was not married to a Indian princess. In fact, if you believe you have an Indian princess in your line, chances are you don't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Really sorry. So that was one. I think there's still an interesting one that we haven't yet completely resolved about another early immigrant was Robert Hicks. And we're still trying to figure out the English side of his genealogy. So sometimes what you'll see that we do is we will create a Google Doc. The team of people working on this will create a Google Doc and we use it because it's a little bit more accessible sometimes in a free space page, or maybe it's just my preference. I don't know. And we'll use that as a working document to really dig into the problem. And so we've got one for Robert Hicks. We've got one for Corn Blossom, who was supposedly married to a guy named Jacob Troxel. That was a fun one. And so when people come and say, no, I believe I really am descended from Corn Blossom, we can point them to that document and say, take a look, read through our thinking. Here's how we got there. We're not doing this just to disprove you and tell you you're wrong. We're really curious about where did this myth come from and what is true about it and what isn't true about it.
Yeah, that's part of the
process. Have you added any information from that Google sheet to a free space profile?
Yeah, what we usually will link to it from the pertinent G2G thread or the pertinent profile. So for example, the Robert Hicks profile links to the Google Doc. It is so long. I don't know that it would make sense converting it to a free space page. I don't know. Happy to talk about that. There might be pros and cons to doing that.
The only reason that I think that is because of Chris Whitten's promise to keep WikiTree going in the event of anything happening. And right. I don't see Google doing that. And I would hate to lose this valuable resource that isn't on WikiTree.
If there's a volunteer who would like to help us convert a lot of these pages, there's a few of them, but if there's somebody who wants to help us convert some of those to a free space page, I'm happy to talk to them about it.
No, Jude already volunteered.
Maggie says, excellent, Jillaine. Finding evidence to prove things is challenging. And
evidence to disprove things is also
Yeah, Julie says she's working on 2 people who now have been told they descend from Native Americans. I've been trying to set expectations for them, which is hard to do. And Carol Baldwin has been talking around some stuff while you've been talking about the NEHGS, saying that the New England History Genealogical Society is worth every penny. I think it's about $100 a year.
It might have gone up to 119. I don't know. It used to be 99. It's totally worth it.
Well, and I've been thinking about trying to grab my buddy David Allen Lambert to come on and talk to us a bit. We actually, since it's Mayflower month, we thought that we'd get him to come in his Mayflower outfit. I actually have some pictures of him in that.
Well, the other thing to know about HGS is it's not just New England anymore.
No,
right?
I know.
The other thing they've got is they've got the online versions of the American Genealogist and Searchable and a whole bunch of other journals as well, and they've totally moved beyond New England. So
yeah.
Fool you.
The Jude says she volunteers to take care of those free space pages for you.
All right, Jude, get in touch with me.
Then June was asking, she's not sure what a free space page is. A free space page, so you have your profile for your ancestor, but WikiTree also gives you the ability to have a page where you can put anything on it, any kind of text if you want to talk about maybe a location or maybe you're doing research. You know, it's just basically it's a blank page for you to just write whatever you want.
Here is an example of a free space page. Oh, I don't know which screen it's on. Let me switch my screen there. Okay. This is an example of a free space page. And this is for the Hunt name study. And it's for my...
It's gone, Megs.
It moved. You moved it off your screen.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Sorry about that. So this is a free space page about the origins of the Hunt 14, because my 14 siblings of my earliest known ancestor for the Hunts keeps getting conglomerated and mixed in and misattributed with the Hunt family from Westchester. So I created this page to help people identify the fact that we are not a part of the Westchester, New York family, even going so far as to post the specific mutations showing that we don't even have the same haplogroup of those people. So so this kind of space page gives me the opportunity to really flesh out who the Hunt 14 are, where they lived. And we've even gone further. Duke University has these papers on this mercantile store that was part of John Hunt's property. And we even have space pages for those accounting books for Thomas Hunt and people in his family that are in those mercantile records from John Hook's store. So that is what you do with a free space page. You don't put everything on a single free space page. You break your information up into groupings of things. So some of these haven't been loaded yet, but they will be loaded. And these are all, I have to say this, parts of work done by a researcher named Doug Hunt, who's given me all of his research information. So I can create these free space pages.
And one way that the PGM project uses free space pages is for wills and inventories. Sometimes the wills are short enough or we summarize them on the profile page of the person whose will it is, but sometimes they're really long. And so when they're really long, we'll move them off to a free space page and link to that from the profile. And what's nice about that then is you can associate and make links between the free space page and like everybody who's mentioned in the will, for example. But then you can access the full text of the will without making the profile itself really long.
Yeah. Well, Dawn Petit asked me to explain about the Hunt mutations. I copied the non-identifying information of the FTDNA Hunt DNA project, which is public. You can actually go to that page and see the information, but I just posted to WikiTree the information without any identifying information. It just says that this mutation is attributed to the Westchester, New York family, and these are some of the people. And this mutation is attributed to the Hunt14, and the haplogroups are absolutely different. So it does make a difference. And the other question real quick was, I have a question. When it shows DNA connections on a profile, what does that really mean? That means that there are testers on WikiTree who have entered their DNA information for their test, not uploaded raw data, but they've added their test information to WikiTree's huge database of DNA testers, and those testers should have a genealogically paper trail that is proven back to that ancestor, and they also have information there where you can check your DNA. But we're not talking about DNA.
Yeah, no.
That could be a topic for a multi-hour chat.
Yeah, we're talking about the
we do
have more your sources sorted non-Puritans from the Puritans in the Puritan Great Migration project. Woo! Example, Thomas Cornell, born 1595, Essex, England, Cornell 30, free space page. Anyway, so have you?
That's a great question for G2G. Lewis, I encourage you to ask that question on G2G or as a comment on the profile of Cornell 30. And I'm sure we've got a group of volunteers who would be happy to dig into that with you.
Mm-hmm. We have some wonderful volunteers that will help you.
We do. I love our volunteers.
June's ready to do some stuff.
Good.
Yay, June.
Yay.
And I didn't say hey to Julie when she said, hey, y'all. So.
Oh, yeah, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Julie Ricketts is in the house.
Yeah. She said that she only came in to see you in person.
Aw.
Told you there are a lot of people here for you today.
That's sweet.
We have 32 people watching.
Wow. Yay. Great.
I don't know if there were any other questions. We're coming up to that
magic hour.
Yeah.
And Jillaine is going to have to get into her chariot, put her slippers on, and disappear into the night.
No, it's just the day's just getting going. So
yeah, Jude was like, I've never felt like trying to do research before the 1700s. It's tricky enough to prove that someone was born in the 1940s was a veteran.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Current 20th century research, I think in some ways is more challenging than pre-1700.
Yeah, and people are looking forward to that 1950 census being available. Woo! The 40 census just came out, and I'm like, you have to wait a few years.
It didn't just come out. It's been out. I don't know. It's been out for like, I don't know how long it's been out.
In the genealogical time frame, is it this much or that much or?
Okay. Well, unless Jillaine, you have anything else you want to add, or we have any other questions, I think we might end off for today. Thank you, Jillaine, for joining us and answering questions and talking about the PGM project. That's really nice.
Sharing your passion for genealogy. I never have gotten that from you, and I see that talking to you, that you have such a passion and a love for what you do, and I so appreciate that.
Thanks. Genealogy, it's like a puzzle. I've always liked puzzles since I was a kid, right? And it's a puzzle. It's a logic puzzle. It's a story. I guess the one final thought. One of the things that I love about genealogy and I think feeds my passion, it is a way to not only learn about your ancestry, but also to relearn history. What you learn about history is so different when you approach it through genealogy than through a standard history class in school. And that's also part of my passion, is that it makes history come alive. And
I'm so glad you were here this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Jillaine. So we will head off for today. Everybody stay safe. We will be here again next Saturday, same time, same place. I don't know if I'll be in the same physical place, but so yeah, everybody have a wonderful day and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.